So we're talking home labs, and right now what I've got set up is I've got my phone using Video Ninja as a platform to stream what's going on through my camera feed, and I'm live streaming obviously on Twitch through my typical setup. But one recent change I've made, and I'm going to hide myself so it's not too distracting here. One recent change I've made to my home lab is I have rolled my rack out and I've started to actually integrate it within the main network of, my house here. And the reason I'm doing that is just to give me a better physical example of what a typical network will look like. In real life, you'll see far more switches and ports and firewalls available, but right now, this is where I'm at. I'm basically setting up my home network like a small enterprise network. And what you can see now is right up here is a patch panel. And you can see those two white cables coming out of the patch panel are the only cables on the patch panel right now that have a live connection. On the back of the patch panel is a cable that runs into a wall port behind where my TV is over there. And that wall port actually has another Ethernet cable on the back that runs all the way into one of the rooms here and into a AT&T fiber router modem combination. So what this lets me do is through my, of course, through the patch panel and then through this Ubiquity Dream Machine Pro, I'm able to have internet by going through my Ethernet cables. Like, for example, my PC, that yellow cable actually runs to the second port, the back of the second port on the patch panel, and then that white cable goes here. The reason that the patch panel even exists is to keep the cables looking a little bit cleaner. I know I've got a bunch of these patch cables, which are much shorter types of cables. There's a bunch of them that are not being used. I do plan on using those. And then, that UDM Pro is acting as a switch, firewall, router, and another DHCP server. And what happens is this white cable is where, basically the connection goes back to the room that has my fiber router modem combo in it, AT&T. And the AT&T router is giving that port an IP address over DHCP. If you don't know what DHCP is, that's the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. That it's responsible for leasing out IP addresses automatically. And then, of course, I've got these two ports, which right now are going to that Mac Mini and then to my PC. And I was going to use these Cisco switches as the primary, like this top Cisco switch I was originally going to use as the core for my network. But that just ended up being not as fast as I wanted. Because really these are the only 2 gig ports on this switch. So this one right here on the top, those are fast Ethernet, all 24 of those. So that means with fast Ethernet, I only get a maximum of 100 megabits per second, where, a gig is 1 gigabit per second. And wherever possible, you want to try to get you want to get as close as possible to the speed that your ISP is capable of. And here at my place, it's 1 gigabit per second fiber connection. So I can get 1 gig, and I'm actually getting 1 gig right now because I'm hardwired. When I'm on Wi-Fi, it's still pretty good. It's 500 megabits per second. So it's literally slashed in half. Wi-Fi is almost always that, right? You're almost always going to get half of what you could get if you used, you're always going to get half of what you could be getting if you were wired in, and that's, I'm getting right at what I pay for here at the house. So, always keep that in mind when you're talking about internet speed. So that's where I'm thinking about my home lab and optimizing my home lab for speed and then for learning. So on this device, the UDM Pro, of course, I'm going to do firewalling and different, security configurations as well as network segmentation here to, break off into like this Cisco network. So I will eventually set it up to where there's a connection coming from the UDM Pro to one of the switches so that I can use that for demonstration purposes. In the past, I've just used like multiple laptops, set it up, screen captured on the separate laptop, then edited that in. I think it would be really cool now that I have this sort of management network set up. We don't ever have to go without an internet connection with what's showing up on stream. So even if these don't directly have internet connection right away, at least one connection to them will. Like my PC, I've got a console cable. You see that light blue cable running into the back of that top switch. So I can show the connection to the Cisco switch at any point. Then, of course, using SSH, I can reach them. And it's going to be a much better setup for content creation and just learning. So overall, what I would like to do is eventually add more of these Mac Minis. These are older Intel-based Mac Minis. I need to get one or two really Apple Silicon-based Mac Minis so that I want to run a CI/CD pipelines and setup on my network so that I can better understand developer operations. I also plan on setting up some Terraform. I may store the state file locally or in the cloud. We'll see. Eventually, I will set up Entra and all this stuff I'd like to share on YouTube and on Twitch. So that's my home lab setup, and it's what I've got for now and what I'll eventually build on top of this. Let me know if you have any thoughts on this in the chat or in the comments below or any ideas. I'll also link to an X post that I put out there where I went in depth on the configurations that I did on these. And, I plan on continuing to update that thread over the next several weeks. And that's a good place to interact as well on X. I'll share that post link in the description of this video. So cool. That's my home lab setup right now. And